And so for years now, we've had issues with society, and the war on genders has been going on for a long time. Of course, the media reports that the war on genders is the war against women, when it's never been a war against women at all. That is the lie. They took the truth and flipped it upside down. And for anybody that wants to deny that, just because you're living in a dream or you're living in a fantasy, you're living on another planet, but you're not living in reality. Because all you got to do is turn on your television set and you'll see the male shaming, the male shaming, the male shaming. All you got to do is live for a little while and you'll see all the double standards. That's right. The double standards, the taboo topics, and it all centers around keeping the truth buried. The real war on the genders is against both genders through social engineering. It's just you have the primary victim, the primary target, the primary victim, and the secondary victim. Primary victim, the focus point, the target is against the man, not the woman. That's why you got male bashing 365 days a year on your television set. That's why you have double standards in society, and that's why everything's marketed towards the female, not the man. And then, of course, we got the simps, the white knights. I like to call them vaginas. The weak-minded, so-called, I wished I was a man, who are a male, but they're not a man. Their gender is that of a male, a boy, but they're not a man. They failed to grow up. They're not a man at all. They might just well put on a dress and become a woman, because that's really what they act like, okay? And of course, then we have our society double standards that's placed the woman up above the men. Like Joe Biden, like Barack Obama, Joe Biden, preaching about all the fathers that are better than their family. He didn't tell you anything about all the women who threw the father out of the house. He left that part completely out. He didn't tell you how the father wasn't allowed to be around. He didn't tell you about all the times that the kids were held back and the father had to keep going and paying the courthouse money to take the wife in front of the court judge, the ex-wife in front of the judge with your corrupt family law, no fault divorce. For the father to be able to see his kids just so she can do it again after he gets in front of the judge. He'll scold her and slap her hand and tell her he has the right to see his children. So he'll get out of the courthouse. Judge will scold her, slap her hand. She'll let him see his kids a couple, 3 times, then she'll deny it again and again and again and again. And it don't matter because police, it's civil matter, so therefore he has to go pay money at the courthouse again and take her in front of the judge again. And it just keeps repeating itself and repeating itself and repeating itself like a replay of Gilligan's Island. So, and then of course we have the fact that men have no parental rights whatsoever at all. If you're with a woman and you get her pregnant, you want the child, and she decides she don't want it, you don't have no rights. She can kill that kid clear up to the day it's born. Anymore, I think she could probably kill the kid right after it's born too, and be legal and not go to jail for murder. This is how evil our society's become. Then, of course, with all the double standards, we don't hold women accountable. Men are expected to be held accountable when men are held accountable. And so many times we've observed over the years, a man does the crime, the woman does the exact same crime in the exact same state, and the man goes to prison for a bunch of years, and the woman gets a slap in the hand and goes home. We've seen this play out over and over and over. And of course, because we've pampered the white knights and simps and gender roles in society, social engineering has pampered the female. Boys are not allowed to hit girls regardless of what. There is absolutely no excuse to ever lay your hands on a girl. We've actually given the girl permission to hit the boy. That's right. No accountability is held on that, okay? Towards the woman, that is. Only the man. We all know what the social engineering's done for us. So what I got is 3 examples of social engineering right in your face, and how power and greed absolutely corrupts the human mind just like ego does. And from social engineering and everything I just talked about, this is why these women you're about to see are acting the way they're acting. So watch up, and I'll be right back with you.
You did this to yourself. Listen.
I didn't do anything to myself.
Okay,
Don't tell me
that's
what I
fine.
did to
You'll have
myself.
a
I didn't
chance.
do anything.
You'll have a
It's
chance to defend
melatonin. Look it
yourself.
up. That's all I have to say. It's melatonin. Look it up. Leave me alone.
You're cursing me up one side, down the other. She won't answer questions. She won't tell me where she's from. She won't tell me where she was born.
Lauren was arrested after a domestic dispute with her boyfriend. The single mom and full-time flight attendant claims she is the victim, not her boyfriend.
I came home. I went straight to the bedroom. I didn't say a word to the boyfriend. He stormed through the doors thinking that I was disrespecting him. These are the bruises on my arm. This is from him just grabbing me alone and throwing me on the bed. So I called the police for help, and they arrested me. I was the one that ended up getting arrested when I was calling for their help. Now I'm here, and I feel like I'm in a psych ward, and I don't belong here.
Sir ID.
Lauren faces up to a year in jail if she's found guilty of battering her boyfriend.
Now, could you stand on straight and get camera number 2, please? Thank you.
Apparently, I put my hands on him, and I never touched him.
She tries calling a friend of hers to help post bond, but no one answers.
Looks like I'm spinning all this This is like hopeless. Because there's no reason why I should be here. I didn't do anything wrong. And I feel angry because it's my boyfriend that put me here when I'm the one that called for help on him. I don't want to take my clothes off and put that green jumpsuit on. I don't deserve to be in it. It's embarrassing. I'm a normal person. I'm a mother. I'm not supposed to be here.
Contrary to Lauren's claims that she was the victim, a deputy describes the boyfriend's injuries witnessed by the arresting officer.
He actually has marks and scratches on his face, neck, and stomach.
There are also court-ordered conditions Lauren must accept prior to being released.
You can have absolutely no contact, whether directly, indirectly, by person, by telephone, by messenger, to here.
This is somebody that has now just screwed up my life. And now I'm stuck in here. I'll lose my job because I won't be there by Monday.
Do you understand these conditions? Yeah.
Like, you don't understand. That work is my livelihood, okay?
Everybody who comes in here gets an ID badge.
And so with that being said, I'm going to say this. This is fair use. Just for the people out there that might want to think this is copyright. No, this is not copyright. This is fair use, which is legally done, okay, for educational purposes only. So I want to get that out there so if this video disappears for copyright, that you'll see they're violating the man-made rules that they're pushing on us to obey, that they're not obeying themselves, because that would be the only way they can remove this video would be to violate the very laws, copyright laws themselves. Because fair use is legal and it's not copyright. I'm not claiming ownership to this property of this video. I'm using portions of what you're seeing for educational purposes to point it out. But anyhow, with that being said, I know that was a little off topic. But with that being said, you see what you just saw, right? You see how she claims that she came home and she just went straight to her room, and for no reason at all, just other than that he could, because she didn't say hi, bye, boo, or anything to him when she came through the door, that he came in the room enraged and attacked her, okay? And how he bruised her, how he attacked her, and she ran out and called the police because she was the victim. And now she's being arrested and taken to jail because she's the victim. But then you also heard what the officers said about the cops that were on the scene, what they witnessed and seen with their own eyes. All the scratches up and down his face and his arms and stuff that just didn't magically get there. See, but you know why she's acting this way, right, don't you? You know why she's denying ever touching him? Because she don't have to be accountable. Because society's taught her that her whole life. White knights and simps have always covered up for every wrong she's ever made. She's never been accountable for her own actions. And now, suddenly, she's being held accountable for her own actions. And they didn't believe her lie. No, she had a little pimple-sized bruise on her arm. That's all she could show you. And he had scratches up and down his chest and face and arms from her. So what does that really tell you? It tells you who attacked who, doesn't it? But of course, like always, what do we do in today's society? We flip the truth upside down. We are the aggressor. We are the perpetrator. We do the attacking. And then we flip it upside down, and now we're the perpetrator and the victim. And the victim becomes the victim and the victim. That's what we see going on all the time. That's what she tried. But of course she tried it because, after all, women in today's society normally are not held accountable, are they? Until they get caught up into the justice system. Then suddenly, when they get caught up into the criminal justice system, accountability is pushed in their face. And that's what you're seeing here. So watch out.
Just sentenced this morning to return to jail. Her husband is already serving 25 years for drug trafficking.
When I was riding in the patrol car, I was looking out the window and I knew it could be the last time I'd see outside for about 2 years.
Go ahead and stand in that yellow square right here.
When I came in for intake, I just wanted to not upset the deputies.
All right, I'm gonna check your pockets first.
You know, they have to be tough, and they all think that we're scum.
Since she came directly from court, Kimberly is dressed in her best suit.
All right, need you to remove your jacket and slip off your shoes.
She was sentenced to 2 years in prison, 1 year of house arrest, and 12 years of probation.
Go ahead and slip your shoes back on.
The moment that I was sentenced, I knew that it would be the last time I'd be standing there as a free person.
Turn around, open your mouth.
I prepared to be in handcuffs.
Kimberly was also charged with intent to distribute methamphetamines, which is a felony.
Could have been a lot worse. I could have been charged with trafficking methamphetamine because of the amount that I had. But my attorney made a deal with the state, and they dropped it to possession with intent. I could have been serving a mandatory 10 years in prison.
It's your hands.
Before I was arrested a year ago, I'd never been arrested before in my life. I'd never been in trouble with the law before. Had a clean record. Well, methamphetamine is a very addictive drug. It's very dangerous. I could say I started using more often, hanging out with certain people.
Any kind of heart condition or high blood pressure.
And then I met my husband, and he was actually a dealer. So once we started dating each other, it got worse. One bad decision, and I'm going to prison. I'm going to prison.
You will receive a shower, a uniform, 3 pair of panties, and 3 bras. All right, ladies, go to your left, stay on the wall.
It made me very angry to lose my husband. He abandoned us because he knew what he was doing when he was selling could land him in prison, and it did.
And so what you saw there is she clearly told you that she was hooked up on drugs, okay? And then when she met her boyfriend, he was a dealer. So when she met him, he was a dealer, dealing the drugs she was hooked up on. And I'm sure these are the 2 things she saw. Here's the drugs I'm hooked on. He has lots of them and he sells them, okay? and I can get my drugs from him. And if I hook up with him, I can get my drugs probably pretty much free because I'll be with him. And plus, he's making lots of money selling these drugs. So this means I'll also have access to lots of money. You know, the ATM machine. And so then as you watch this video, what did you see later on? When she says how she was hooked up on drugs, when she met her boyfriend, he was a dealer. So we've already discussed that, right? We know why she was with him, for the drugs and for the money. But now that she's in jail and she's being held accountable and he's in jail, it's his fault for abandoning her. That he knew by selling these drugs, he could get arrested and go to prison for years. Now let's just back up a minute. Them are her words out her mouth. But that contradicts what she first said, doesn't it? That's doublespeak. She's speaking out both sides of her mouth. Because first off, she says when she met him, he was dealing drugs and she was already hooked up on drugs herself. Which means she already knew he was a dealer when she met him and dealing drugs that could put him in prison. She already knew that the drugs were man-made rules, laws, illegal, and that if she got busted with him, she would go to jail. So she already knew all this. And for a second off, she already not only knew all this, she has her pick. Men don't have their pick in the dating arena. Women take the pick, not men. And she picked him. So, and we know she picked him based on the fact that she was hooked on drugs herself and he had lots of the drugs she's using, which means she wouldn't necessarily have to buy him anymore. We know that's one of her decisions for being with him. And the other one, of course, is because he was making lots of money. But now that both of them are being held accountable for what they were doing, suddenly she says he abandoned me because he knew it was illegal. Now, do you see the doublespeak falling on her mouth? And you know why that's happening once again? Social engineering, white knights, simps, and vaginas. Women aren't held accountable for their actions. They just get to do. And that's what she was counting on. But now she's sitting there whining, I'm going to prison. That's right, you're being held accountable, ain't you? Okay, so watch out.
At the Gwinnett County Jail, the summer heat takes its toll.
Step away from the door. Step away from the door.
A young woman tries to get her way.
When they brought me here, it was the scariest thing ever.
Kelly, 24, was failing to pay her speeding tickets.
Put all your property in the bag.
They were really rude.
Walk through the metal detector. Come back through, ma'am.
I just love you. This will be a life-altering experience for me. I don't think that I'll look at police officers in the same way. I'll have a lot less respect for them because of the way they treated me. I was just like really freezing, and they were not gonna bring me like a blanket or a sweatshirt. And although I'm wearing a dress, they wouldn't let me put on a jumpsuit.
After 2 hours in the holding cell, Kelly is able to air her grievances to Captain Hicks.
Have a seat.
I'm freezing cold. Is there any way I could have a jumpsuit like the other girls that came in with dresses like mine, that were actually not even as short as mine?
Did you ask for a jumpsuit?
I did.
I'll get you a jumpsuit, but we're very busy. We treat somebody that's like you, that's here on a traffic charge, just like somebody that's here for murder.
The people here were like colder to me. They were a lot ruder to me than when I was like, I don't know, like a little more bitchy.
I don't know what you mean by rude and cold. Can you explain that?
Just like when I came in, I was really scared. I was crying. She said, drop your Kleenex in the trash can. I mean, she could have just said, you know, could you throw your Kleenex in the trash can while we do these pictures or whatever? Or why was it even an issue that I had tissue in my hand?
Why wasn't she asked in a nicer way to throw away her tissue? Come on.
For me to have a simple question, though, like while she's putting on my wristband, for me to say, how long does it generally take to get bonded out?
They can't tell you how fast you're going to get in and get out. They don't know if we've had 15, 20 people brought in or 60 or 70.
She could answer that in seconds. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not going to whine about it. I'm not really a whiner, but I just thought it was kind of mean.
And so the last thing I gave you there was this woman trying to get her way, her want. Her way, her want. And so many times have I seen it where women will make these statements. Okay, that you as the man, thanks to gender roles, social engineering one more time, you owe them. And it's your job to be the provider. No, not just the protector, but the provider. To provide her. To give her her wants. And they become spoiled rotten to it because so many men do exactly that, exactly that, exactly that. And when they do, of course, they're playing into social engineering. They're corrupting her. So from the time she's taught all this stuff, and she grows up with entitlement issues and believes that she's owed all this stuff based on her gender. And she will demand, and she will order, and she will dump you and throw you away and replace you with another guy out of her 150 guy hit list that she has all the time if you don't give her wants. That's right. It's not about your wants as a man because you're not a human. You're somehow lower than a human. She's the only human because you know that females are the only humans on the face of the planet, right? The men ain't humans. You know, females in today's society, they're the ones that have children. Men have nothing to do with it, right? Now, I'm being sarcastic. Of course, I don't mean any of that. But that's the mentality people are running on. Okay? And that mentality is sick. But that is social engineered mentality. And this gal here gave you that social engineering, that mentality of you do as I say, you do as I say, you do as I say. I wear the pants in the house. I'm the boss. That's right. And you owe me. That's right. You do as I say. That's the mentality. That's the reason I put her in the final clip for this video. Because it needs to be seen. This is the mentality. You need to understand why she acts this way. Remember when I said women and men are both alike or victims of the social engineering? Except for you have primary and secondary. Primary target is the men. That's why all the male bashing happens. That's why we got the double standards in society. Because the war itself has made its primary target the men. The secondary target is the spoiled behavior of the women. Which, of course, you know, women are the ones that instigate the majority of all divorces. It's hardly ever instigated by the man. Women are the ones that instigate the majority of all the drama and all the fighting in the household. Not that a man can't. There are men that will. But the majority is women. And that's because of the programming. Remember I told you about the poll. One side is programming for women, one side's for men. Okay? And even though men are the primary target and we're the most victimized, in your face openly in society, women are victims too. Except for they've been programmed for self-destruction. And with their self-destruction, they also destroy the male. And they don't realize that self-destruction programming is in them. They think it's perfectly normal. So they demand that everything's their way, their way, their way, or else. Which, of course, destroys love, destroys relationships. Because it's never, ever been about one-sided, 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 one-sided. See how the social engineering works? So when a woman says, you're damn right, you better give me my want, she's a victim of that social engineering. She's the victim of her own demise. Because she will be the one that's responsible for destroying the love. If the guy loves her, she's the one that will destroy that love. She is the one that will destroy the relationship through her own behaviors. And she will be unable to see it because it's been socially engineered into her. That is the pole, like I told you, programming, social engineering. Programming for the male, programming for the female. That's where that came from. And with that being said, I'm out of here.